May I especially appreciate and welcome the chairman of today's occasion, the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Yakubu Chonoko Mekel, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Can we put our hands together for him, please? May I also specially appreciate our special guest of honor for today, His Excellency Sheriff Francis Oborowori, the Executive Governor of Delta State, who is represented here today by his Chief of Staff, Honorable Johnson Erijo. You're welcome, sir. Please put your hands together for him. May I also specially appreciate our keynote speaker for today. Our keynote speaker is none other than the very respected Mrs. Fumi Roberts. Please put your hands together for her. May I also specially appreciate our past presidents. Our founding president is joining us online, Dr. Ozonia Ojilo. But may I especially also appreciate Chief Dr. Patrick K. Njoku. Please put your hands together for him. You're welcome. Also with us here is Dr. Louis Brown Ogbefu. Thank you very much, sir. May I also appreciate Chief Emeka Obegolu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Please can we clap for all our past presidents? May I also specially recognize the newly minted silk. I wish we had a print-on-demand system. We'll have delayed the printing of this program so that we can appropriately print him with his name and his new title. However, I am not a printer and I have a biro to adjust it. So I want to specially appreciate and welcome our President and Chairman of the Governing Council, Agada John Elache, PhD, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Please put your hands together for him. It is an honor to be the very first MC in the entire world to first have the honor to address you as a senior advocate in a public function. Please put your hands together especially for him. I also especially appreciate the other members of the executive committee. Our first deputy president, Mr. Godwin Omoaka, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Our second deputy president, Dr. Chukwuemeka B.T. Eze. I especially appreciate the registrar, Madam Aisha Ado Abdullahi. Please put your hands together for her. Thank you very much. The deputy registrar, Mr. Babatunde Oyefesho. You're welcome, sir. The chief magistrate, Helen Umana, our vice president finance. Also, let me especially appreciate Honorable Uchenna Cyril Anioke, vice president communications and strategy. Ambassador Victor A.A. Ojade, Vice President, Continuing Professional Development, Ngozi Ogbolu, Vice President, Marketing and Membership Drive, and Dr. Adeola Adams, Vice President, Exams and Records. Ifeanyi Obegolu is Vice President in charge of training. Please can we clap for them, our members of the Executive Committee. May I also specially appreciate members of the National Executive Council, particularly those who are present here today. Our special guests, our speakers, our moderators and our panelists, our invited guests, inductees for today, especially we appreciate you, and men of the press who have come to cover this event. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. May I especially welcome us to the 2023 ADR Conference, Induction and AGM. Our theme for this year is Commercial Mediation and Africa's Emerging Markets. It opens us up to not practice as local people, but that there is a vast opportunity out there to take over the African market. This conference, therefore, is to prepare us for what is to come, what opportunities other people have already started experiencing as we get set for it. So distinguished guests, to go deep into the matter already, I'll want to crave your indulgence that we'll be on our feet as we prepare to take the national anthem to honor Nigeria. Can we therefore be on our feet? Thank you very much. You may please take your seats. In the spirit of peace, particularly as our president has been described as a man who can sacrifice everything for peace, I think it would not be unfair or out of place to ask you to just extend that peace to the next person seated next to you. Can we just do a good morning handshake and say welcome? You should shake at least two people and tell them good morning. Thank you very much. And so, Mr. Chairman, our special guest of honor, our keynote speaker, past presidents, President and Chairman of the Governing Council, members of the National Executive Committee, and members of the National Executive Council, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I welcome us as we prepare to take Africa. To do the welcome proper, may I invite the Chairman of the CPC, Dr. Adeyemi Agbelusi, to come and do for us the honors of welcoming us properly to this event. Please put your hands together for him. I want to tell you he had not slept in the past 3 weeks working this, and particularly last night he stayed up long after we had the SAN dinner to do more work. Please put your hands together for him.
Your Excellencies, Milords present, members of the various state councils who are here, our special guests, our speakers, royal fathers, esteemed members of council, our visitors from all over the world online, the heads of various professional organizations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I stand on all existing protocol. It gives me great pleasure on behalf of the Planning Committee to welcome you on behalf of the ICMC to the 2023 Annual Conference of the Institute. As it has already been stated, our 2023 Annual Conference is holding today, 28th of November 2023, on the theme Commercial Mediation and African Emerging Markets. The conference aims to explore the intersection of commercial mediation and African emerging markets, highlighting the opportunities, challenges, and the best practices in this dynamic context. During this one-day conference, there will be 3 engaging panel discussions with 16 speakers to enlighten us on salient topical matters arising from the conference theme. Our distinguished panelists and moderators, who are experts in their field, have been carefully chosen to ensure that we have a robust and engaging discussion during the conference. They will exchange ideas on subjects and topics such as the role of commercial mediation in African emerging markets, in which delegates participating in the discussion can expect a comprehensive exploration of the concept of commercial mediation and its significance within the African context. It will delve into the benefits that commercial mediation offers to businesses operating in emerging markets and highlight its potential to resolve disputes efficiently and cost-effectively. Additionally, the discussion will focus on the role of commercial mediation in fostering investor confidence and attracting foreign investment to Africa, thus contributing to the region's economic growth. On opportunities, threats, empowering efficiency, the unleashing of the potential of online dispute resolution in commercial mediation, our delegates can expect a focused exploration of the benefits and transformative power of online dispute resolution, ODR. This session will highlight how ODR enhances commercial mediation by streamlining processes, leading to rapid and cost-effective resolution of disputes. And I must put on record that the ICMC has its own ODR platform, which has already been engaged in this process. Through real-world case studies, our experts will demonstrate how technology expedites negotiation, documentation, and agreement execution. Our attendees will gain valuable insights into how online dispute resolution can improve business relationships, minimize disruptions caused by prolonged disputes, and ultimately foster successful outcomes for commercial entities. The topic on building capacity, legal framework, and regulatory challenges will bring to bear a comprehensive discussion surrounding two key areas. Firstly, the topic will analyze the existing legal frameworks and regulatory structures governing commercial mediation in African countries, with a view on Nigeria's new Arbitration and Mediation Act 2023. It will identify challenges and opportunities for harmonizing commercial mediation practices across different jurisdictions and explore the role of policymakers and legal professionals in creating an enabling environment for commercial mediation. Secondly, the topic will examine existing training programs and professional development opportunities for commercial mediators in Africa. It will emphasize the importance of standardizing training and certification to ensure quality and professionalism in the field of mediation and explore innovative approaches such as mentorship programs and online training platforms to enhance capacity building in commercial mediation. Our conference sessions will then culminate with the annual induction dinner later this evening, where over 803 new members will be inducted. Congratulations to all our new inductees. Lastly, our profound gratitude goes to all who have worked tirelessly to make this conference a huge success. The President of the ICMC, Dr. Agada Elachi, SAN, our learned silk, speakers, and most especially members of the Conference Planning Committee and the Institute staff at the Secretariat, all of whom have worked hard and diligently to ensure the smooth planning and execution of this conference. Milords, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, our visitors, and all of you who have come here today, we thank you for your participation in this year's conference, and we sincerely hope that by sharing experiences, best practices, lessons learned, this conference will promote the adoption and growth of commercial mediation in Africa and ultimately contribute to the growth of business and economic development in the region. Welcome to Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, for the 2023 Annual Conference of the ICMC.
Let's give him another round of applause. Thank you very much. We are still expecting a few others of our VIPs to join us. However, we must continue for the sake of peace. I had come in earlier and had gone to the area for tea, and it was a simple welcome and a special one that I got at that point. I don't know how many of us were welcomed as specially as that. The lady at the teapot just told me, "Sir, what would you like to have?" She said, "Fruit juice, yogurt, tea, chocolate, cappuccino, frappuccino, or coffee?" And I said, "This early morning?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, give me tea." She said, "Sir, what kind of tea will you have? Ceylon tea, Indian tea, herbal tea, gold bush tea, or green tea?" I said, "Give me Ceylon tea." She said, "How do you want it? White or black?" I said, "White." She said, "Milk or fresh cream?" I said, "Milk." She said, "Goat milk or cow milk?" I said, "Cow milk." She said, "Friesland cow or Africana cow?" I said, "Friesland cow." She said, "Would you like it with sweetener, sugar, or honey?" I said, "Sugar." She said, "Bee sugar or cane sugar?" I said, "Cane sugar." She said, "White, brown, or yellow?" I said, "Please, can you forget about the tea? Just give me a glass of water." And she said, "Mineral water, tap water, or distilled water?" I said, "Mineral water." She said, "Flavored or non-flavored?" I said, "Leave the water, just give me the glass." She said, "Sir, do you want the glass?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Do you want a tumbler, wine glass, champagne flute, or a beer mug?" I said, "Leave the glass. I'm just here to learn something new about ADR." Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting set and getting started. The next, of course, will be the address of the one who's truly, newly a silk. To have been so elevated is beautiful, but to have been so elevated in a manner and style that he has done is beautiful. I think I went to like 5 different receptions yesterday. I didn't see anyone as colorful as that one. But today is the day after, and he's sitting as president and chairman of our governing council. Permit me to welcome Agada John Elachi, PhD, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, to do for us his address of welcome this morning. Please put your hands together for him. Let's clap properly for him.
Good morning, distinguished conferees. May I start my address by welcoming and paying homage to our distinguished special guest of honor, the Governor of Delta State, ably represented by the Chief of Staff to the government of Delta State. Please, you are welcome, sir. It's also important that I pay tribute and recognition to those who walked this path before me. And in that regard, I want to pay respect to past president, or he prefers to say former president, because when you say past, it may mean that he has gone to the past. So former president, Chief Dr. Padi Njoku, we call him the Omenuka of the world. The current world, not the one beyond. He has no business with the beyond right now. Thank you, sir. And of course, past President Dr. Brown Ogbefun, the Godfather. You're welcome, sir. I also recognize the first Deputy President of the Institute, my brother, Godwin Omoka, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who by the grace of God will become President of the Institute at the end of today's ceremonies, at the end of this evening's induction. I can't wait to hand over to you, my brother, so you can come and carry the wahala. All right, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the keynote speaker, of course. I want to make a mistake. I'd like to pay special tribute and respect to the keynote speaker. And Mrs. Roberts, if you don't mind, would you mind standing for a second so that I can recognize you especially? Mrs. Fumi Roberts is a seasoned lawyer of several decades. Forget the look. She is a special person in the ADR world, a seasoned arbitrator and mediator, and we are lucky to have her as our keynote speaker today. I thank you, Ma, for coming, and for all the panelists, members of Governing Council, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, conferees, thank you for coming to this conference. On behalf of the Governing Council and the entire members of the Institute, I welcome you all to the 2023 ADR Conference. As it has become customary, we will, at the end of today's event, induct into the Institute fellows, members, and associates. The theme for the 2023 ADR Conference is Commercial Mediation and Africa Emerging Markets. This theme has been carefully chosen to open the forum for the discussion on the role of mediation in the support of and resolution of disputes that arise in commercial transactions in Africa. The importance of a stable business climate for commercial transactions in Africa cannot be overemphasized. Therefore, it is important to open discussions on emerging markets and economies in Africa in general and in Nigeria in particular, especially in the wake of the recently passed Arbitration and Mediation Act 2023. We are delighted to have the very experienced Mrs. Phoebe Roberts as our keynote speaker. Mrs. Phoebe Roberts combines an extensive 40-year legal background with proven conflict management systems development and experience in arbitration and mediation, covering diverse sectors such as construction and project development, oil and gas, real estate, banking and finance. With Mrs. Roberts' wealth of experience, I have no doubt that she will be setting the tone for other panelists and conferees to interrogate the theme. May I use this opportunity to express my gratitude to the Conference Planning Committee under the able leadership of Dr. Adeyemi Agbelusi, we popularly call Rev Doc. A round of applause for him. And his team. Please, the Conference Planning Committee, please, will you rise for recognition? Please, a round of applause for the Conference Planning Committee. They've worked tirelessly and very hard, sometimes tolerating my harassment. Please have a seat. So we thank them for all the work that they've done, for their hard work and sacrifice. May I also acknowledge the work and contribution of the Secretariat in making today's conference possible. Where are my Secretariat people? My team. Okay, I'm sure they are all about working. Thank you. In 2020, we took over the reins of leadership with the mandate to take the Institute beyond training, accreditation, and certification, and provide interventionist services in various specialized areas of practice. With this in mind, we kicked off 2021 with the launch of the Institute's five-year strategic action plan to provide guidance for the running of the Institute for many years to come. The SAP, built on the foundation laid by our founding fathers and past presidents, and was geared towards providing a pathway for the future of the Institute. Over the last 3 years, we have had the honor of spearheading several projects. In 2021, we launched the Volunteer Mediator Scheme, VMS, which was targeted at providing members of the Institute real-time practice opportunity, while at the same time offering free mediation services as part of corporate social responsibility of the Institute to the public. It is our hope that in the long term, the VMS will result in the establishment of ICMZ-owned and managed alternative dispute resolution centers, providing quality service to various levels of stakeholders and contributing to the standardization of commercial, family, community mediation, and other forms of dispute resolution mechanism. I pause here to say that in this regard, Ekiti branch, I had the privilege in June of launching the ADR Center for Ekiti branch of the Institute, and I'm hopeful that that center, alongside with others, will continue to help to promote ADR across our different localities. Another landmark achievement recorded in the course of our tenure in office was the promotion of greater sense of inclusiveness for our members, targeted at the revival of branch activities. This was achieved by undertaking advocacy and sensitization visits to various branches of the Institute. I think I can say with every sense of responsibility that I probably have visited all branches of the Institute since I became president of the Institute. But if there is any branch that I forgot to visit, it would be the fault of the chairman, who did not facilitate my attending to that particular branch. This in turn bettered a renewed vigor in our branches, which eventually resulted in several branches organizing annual lectures, workshops, settlement weeks, and some have become consistent. Kaduna branch, for instance, and I want to, in that regard, recognize in our presence, in our midst, the presence of the past chief judge of, the immediate past chief judge of Kaduna State. My Lord, please may you take a bow for recognition. Thank you very much, my Lord. My Lord was very supportive of ADR. Under his tenure, we trained all the judges at that time in ADR and the magistrates in mediation skills. We also call on private, okay, very good. In 2022, the Institute launched the ICMC ODR platform to enable the prompt and speedy resolution of disputes in Nigeria and beyond. It is our hope that the platform will be used by courts and court-connected ADR centers for referral and resolution of disputes. We also call on private dispute resolution centers to take advantage of the ICMC platform. In 2023, as part of the Institute's corporate social responsibility, we organized a 2-day workshop for all directors of multi-door courthouses and heads of ADR centers in Nigeria. The workshop was aimed at providing a platform to support multi-door courthouses and ADR centers to offer robust mechanisms for effective justice delivery and provide support to neutrals and introduce relevant stakeholders to the ICMC online dispute resolution platform and our VMS scheme. Similarly, we hosted the first of its kind, the first annual ADR conference for judges in partnership with Ogun State Judiciary. The need to hold this conference was bettered by the need to reduce case congestion on the dockets of judges and attendant delays with the litigation process in Nigeria. The conference was designed to provide a platform to interrogate several issues, particularly as it relates to the resolution of disputes via ADR, and to also create peer review forum for judges and the judiciary as a whole on how to enhance access to justice through ADR, thus leading to a more efficient and effective administration of justice in Nigeria. In that regard, I want to pay respect to our fellow, our member, my Lord, the Chief Judge of Ogun State, Honorable Justice Dikpeolu, who took on the responsibility of partner. Many of you who attended the last year's ADR conference will remember that my Lord was sitting at a table just to my left, and we were talking about effectiveness of administration of justice and the role of judges, and my Lord said it would be nice if judges could be trained and a conference could be organized for them. And here, there and then, I told my Lord, if we will have the cooperation of Ogun State Judiciary, ICMC is ready to partner to host the first ADR conference for judges. I'm pleased to say that that is now history, and we have set in motion a legacy, and it is a legacy project, and I'm pleased to inform you that Lagos State Judiciary has accepted and agreed to host the second edition of the ICMC partnership with the judiciary in holding an annual conference for our judges. My brother Godwin Omoka and his executive will now be charged with the responsibility of taking that forward. Another major achievement is the completion of the ICMC Mediation House. I wish to express my sincere gratitude to the Governing Council and members of the Institute who have responded to our call for donations towards the completion of the building project. As of today, we are pleased, and I've just asked them to please show it on the screen as I speak to that. As of today, we are pleased to say that the building is nearing completion and is almost ready for use. As earlier communicated, all donors will be duly acknowledged and their names listed on the honors roll. This morning, I had the privilege of taking on a tour of the building the Chief of Staff of the Delta State Government around the building to see the progress we have made. His Excellency had accepted to come and pay a visit and look at a facility tour and see how much progress we have made and what support they could give, what additional support, please, they could give. Please, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, conferees, a big round of applause to Delta State Government for the support so far that they have given to the Institute. in terms of the building. The Delta State government, as of today, has already given us 10 million naira. I want to hear a louder applause. It is my hope that the Delta State government, now that the Chief of Staff has seen the building and seen how well we have utilized the little we have given. The Bible says that if you use the little that you are giving well, more will be given to you. So I'm hopeful that now that they see that, it will, of course, encourage them to even give more. And Delta State government sits in the category of platinum donors, which is those who give us 10 million and above. So if they give us 200 million now, they will still be number one. The beauty of it is that they are number one on the donors list. The next is because this is my last opportunity to address a conference of this nature, and I do not know how many of you will be at the induction later today. It is important that I also place on record my sincere gratitude to all those who have given us donations towards the building. When I had the privilege of taking over as president and coming on board with the ESCO that I have been leading, we decided to start something called Donate to the Building and You Will Be Recognized. And we created categories. And we promised you that anybody who gave donations, we would recognize you by putting your name on the wall. Of course, we had to put a minimum of the donations at 500,000 so that we will not have to put the whole wall in the building, cover the whole wall with names. But we've also created what we call a donors book. There's a book in the secretariat which is a donors book that has the names of all donors. So whether you give us 10,000, you give us 100,000, give us 200,000, that book is being maintained by Irene, the admin manager. So once we receive your donation into the building account, your name will be entered there. And it will be an opportunity, if I may say, for our members to please and conferees, those who would like their names there, to put your name. It's a legacy project. And that project will be here for many years to come after those of us who have left. So please ensure that you do that. We have others who also supported us, who we call the gold donors. And of course, as president of the institute, I wanted to put my money where my mouth was. So I kicked it off with a donation of 1 million naira. So I'm number one on the donors list. And then, of course, other people who gave donations, their names come just as they donated. So we have Dr. Louis Brown Ogbefun, past president. Please, a round of applause for our past president. He gave us support. We have Mr. Godwin Omoka, senior advocate of Nigeria, incoming president. We have Chief Emeka Obegolo, past president of the institute. We have Mrs. Teresa Ibas. We have Professor Adesoji Adeshuba, immediate past director, managing director of NEPSA. We have Ambassador Shegun Ogunyonwo, my brother Shegun, past registrar of the institute. We have Mrs. Elizabeth Aka, who is a fellow of the institute. And last but not the least, in the gold category, we have Otumba Dele Kelvin Oye, my boss. Let me say that the room for donation is open, and on the honors list, the opportunity to have your name inscribed there in marble. It's a marble wall that we have created. You can have your name inscribed there. So even if you don't have it today or have it tomorrow, you can give at any time, and we will ensure that your name is put up there. Then, of course, we have the last category, which is those who are in the silver, which is 500,000 and above. In that category, we have our own indefatigable registrar, Aisha Aduablai. We have Rosemary Elachi. No applause. I thought that should give more applause. We have Prince Obi Orizu. We have Dr. Chukwuemeka Eze. We have Ifoma Geraldine Conway. The applause is dying out. This is money. These people gave us money, please. Thank you very much. We have my auntie, Efe Osaze Etomi. Thank you very much. We have Dr. Aderonke Adesanya. We have James Pulus, our current chair, Kaduna branch. Thank you, sir. We have Victoria Akai, the DG of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And we have Robert Owacho Idoko, a member of the Governing Council. I thank you very much. Please, distinguished audience, please a big round of applause for all our donors. In these hard times, it's not easy for somebody to give you money. So if they did, we must thank them for their contributions. And I restate that please feel free to give. The opportunity is there. The marble is actually being put up right now. So, and the way we've done it is that your names can be inscribed on the wall as soon as you give us a donation. I would like to state in conclusion that it has been a great privilege to serve as the 6th president of the Institute. Looking back on the past 3 years, we have had a great deal of important events, had to deal with a great deal of important events and projects. Despite the harsh economic climate and challenges encountered, we have made some progress. Let me conclude on a note of thanks by stating my sincere appreciation to the entire Governing Council of the Institute for your unwavering support over the last 3 years. I also place on record my gratitude to my colleagues on the Executive Committee, Godwin Omoka, Dr. Emekeze, and all the members of the Registrar, Aisha Adu-Abulahi, and all the members of the ESCO for all the support that you have given me and for the privilege of leading you in service. I also thank the registry and the secretarial staff. I want to please ask this audience to give a big round of applause for our secretariat staff. There are just 6 of them, but they work as if there are 20 of them. Nonetheless, I'm sure that some of you may not have been happy with some of our work. Please forgive us. We will continue to improve, but they are fantastic. I want to thank them for their unflinching support and for the great teamwork that characterized our engagement throughout my tenure as president. I thank the entire ICMC membership for the confidence and trust that you have placed in me and all the support I have received throughout the time in office. It has been a privilege and an honor to have served. I enjoin you to give the same support, and more to the new team, which will be led by Godwin Omoka's son, FICMC, the current First Deputy President. I cannot end this address without thanking and honoring my lovely and beautiful wife, Rosemary, for being the silent anchor and strength which I have always relied on through the tough times. Thank you. I also thank my children, Oine, Oche, Agada, Junior, and Ene, for their love and understanding. They had to tolerate a lot of disappearance and traveling. Finally, I thank the good Lord Almighty for granting me the wisdom, the grace, the mercy, and favor to steer this great ship called ICMC. I thank you for listening. God bless. Thank you very much. Thank you, distinguished participants, distinguished audience. I have just received a call, or before I came up, I received a call from the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, who is the chairman of this occasion. He has asked me to apologize that due to the meeting of the National Judicial Council, which is holding about now, where they will be considering the appointment of the new Supreme Court justices. He is unable to be here at this time and intends to join us later in the day. So he has mandated and given me the authority to, on his behalf, as president of the Institute, as my fellow president. I thought somebody would clap for me for that. As president of the MBA, president of ICMC. He has asked me to say to all of you that as a member of the Institute, he's proud of the Institute, and he regrets the fact that he's not able to make it here this morning, but he trusts that the conference will go well. He invites you to be open in your discussions, and that it is indeed key that we chart a course for how commercial disputes can be better resolved in our country, Nigeria. On that note, he says I should declare this conference open, and so on behalf of the chairman, Mr. Yakubu Mekiao, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, FICMC, OON, I declare this conference open. Thank you very much.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to adopt the already established protocol. My name is Aisha Ado Abdullahi, the Registrar ICMC, and I have the privilege to introduce to you our keynote speaker. She is one of my dear, beautiful mentors, and you'll soon find out why. So I would like to have your full attention, please, as I introduce her to you by reading part of her profile. And everything that you are going to hear from me now is just part of who she is. So listen. Fumi Roberts, a chartered arbitrator and CEDA accredited mediator, combines an extensive 40-year legal background with proven conflict management system design experience to assist clients to effectively and efficiently manage different types of disputes. A member of ICC. ICC, for those who may not know, means International Chamber of Commerce. A member of ICC Arbitration and ADR Commission. Fumi is one of the pioneers of mediation in Nigeria. She was involved in the largest mediation ever conducted in Nigeria, and which saw the successful resolution of more than 200 court cases brought by former staff of one of Nigeria's finance-related agencies. Fumi was part of the committee that participated in drafting the arbitration law of Lagos State and establishment of the Lagos Court of Arbitration, and currently serves as a director on its board and the governing board of the Oyo State Multi-Door Courthouse. Fumi Roberts, who endowed the annual Fumi Roberts Ife Law Annual Essay Competition on Arbitration and ADR for students of the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Osun State of Nigeria, is regularly featured in an international publication, Acquisition International, Global Arbitration Review, GAR. Apart from being on the teaching faculty of both Chartered Institute of Arbitrators UK Nigeria branch and Center for Effective Dispute Resolution, CEDAR, in the UK, Fumi is on the global panel of United Nations Ombudsman and a regional mediator for the World Bank Group. There is more. She serves on the dispute resolution panel of National Electricity Regulation Commission, NERC, which was one of the pioneer directors of the Lagos Court of Arbitration. Having served as a member of the committee that put together the Lagos Arbitration Law 2009, Fumi belongs to several local and international arbitration and mediation institutions, including Chartered Institute of Arbitrators UK, the Nigerian Institute of Arbitrators, London Court of Arbitration, International Chambers of Commerce, and is on the panel of neutrals of several multi-door courthouses in Nigeria. She sits on the board of directors of Lagos Chamber of Commerce Arbitration Center, LASIAC, and Oyo State Multi-Door Courthouse. Fumi Roberts has gained tremendous experience from participating either as arbitrator, registrar, or counsel in more than 50 arbitrations and countless mediations, covering diverse sectors such as construction and project development, oil and gas, real estate, banking and finance, etc. In 2021, she co-founded Africa ADR Organization, which facilitated the training, coaching, and participation of students of 3 universities in Nigeria at the ICC mediation competition in 2022. She is the co-visioner of COVID-19 ADR initiative, an initiative that promotes the use of ADR mechanisms for settlement of COVID-19 related disputes at low cost without compromising quality. She was the chairman of the National Committee on the Repeal and Reform of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1988, which produced the Arbitration and Mediation Act 2023, which was assented to by the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCON, on the 26th of May this year, 2023. This is just part of who she is. You see now why she is my mentor, and I follow her footsteps. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me make welcome my mentor, Fumi Roberts.
The special guest of honor, the president of ICMC. I'm going to, and ladies and gentlemen, can I just be excused and lean on the protocols that have been well established? Sometimes it takes things like this to let you know those who like you. And Rev Doc had always pretended to be my friend. But this morning I realized that I'm not quite sure whether I can call him my friend and brother again. And the reason is simple. He knows that I don't like delivering presentations early in the morning when all the delegates are still fresh from sleep, every faculty intact, waiting to listen to me. And then I get up here and I'm like, am I going to say the right thing? But when you give your address in the afternoon after lunch, when people had had rice, amala, pounded yam and the like, the tendency is they come into the room and fall asleep. So you should have known that and told them that perhaps we start this in the afternoon. But here we are. And what I'm going to do, since I have to do this in the morning, is to prevent myself from seeing the expression on everybody's face. So I've decided to remove my pair of glasses. So, first I'd like to express my profound gratitude for the honor of standing before you today as we gather to explore the transformative potential of commercial mediation on Africa's emerging markets. It is a privilege to address such an esteemed assembly of mediation experts, business leaders, members of the judiciary, and policymakers who share a collective vision for fostering economic growth on our beloved continent. The theme of this year's conference signifies a critical juncture in our economic landscape, where the path to transform lives, businesses, and nations lies in our collective hands. It underscores the recognition that Africa's emerging markets are not merely hubs of opportunities, but catalysts for sustainable growth and development. My name is Fumi Roberts, and I've been mandated to speak to the topic, Driving Economic Growth, the transformative power of commercial mediation in Africa's emerging markets. With more than 40 years dedicated solely to the practice of law, serving on the boards of corporate entities while growing one of the largest female-owned law firms in Nigeria, I've been fortunate to have mediated countless commercial disputes, witnessing firsthand the profound impact mediation can have on resolving disputes, fostering amicable relationships, and facilitating economic progress. I have long held the belief that mediation transcends beyond being a process. It is a catalyst for transformation. The reality that confronts us daily about our continent is that businesses face formidable challenges, from bureaucratic red tape to logistical complexities, and the intricate dance of politics and economics. Our civil justice system is itself bedeviled by challenges. In Nigeria, civil proceedings typically take an average of about 2 to 3 years from initiating litigation to judgment at the court of first instance, and that is if you are fortunate. Many African courts are busted at the seams with heavy dockets filled with cases that have no business being litigated, but for the ease of accessing our courts. When I was preparing for this address, I contemplated delving into the narrative about what is commercial mediation, what are its key principles. But when I reflected on the demographics of the people I know I would see in this room, I then decided that I can confidently assume that all the delegates at this conference are well knowledgeable about commercial mediation, and I cannot imagine any of them who does not understand that commercial mediation is an ADR mechanism that unites parties in commercial disputes with a neutral third party known as the mediator to facilitate a mutually acceptable resolution. That the two key principles of commercial mediation, neutrality and impartiality, are central to creating a level playing ground where parties trust that they can interrogate the causes of and navigate complex disputes with a view to finding mutually acceptable solutions. In considering how best to utilize the limited time I have, I've been told I have just 30 seconds. I then said to myself that do I need to tell these savvy mediators in the room, Mr. Mwaka, SCN, Ambassador Ogunso, Yowo, and the likes, that one of the core principles that underpin mediation is confidentiality. I suspect that you don't want to listen to that. Rather, I'll talk about some of the challenges of Africa's emerging markets. The emerging markets of Africa are not mere regions on a global map. They are not populated by cities that are signified as mere dots on Google Map. Rather, they are vibrant hubs of opportunities, housing untapped resources, a growing consumer base, and a wealth of human potentials. It is this that attracts the Asians, the Europeans, the Americans, each bringing with them the good, the bad, and the ugly. Since the beginning of this century, China joined other developed economies such as Russia, Japan, in courting Africa by convening and facilitating a forum on China-Africa cooperation. The goal is to advance China's commercial and diplomatic interests in Africa, especially with the launch in 2013 of its Belt and Road Initiative, which has accelerated China's socio-political influence in Africa. Again, in the latter part of last year, more than 40 African heads of states participated in the US-Africa Leaders Summit, the second of its kind, the first having been held in year 2014. This, in my view, is the response of the USA to the growing influence of China in Africa. The rivalry between the USA and China for the opportunities embedded in our resource-filled continent does not see any sign of abatement. And this morning, as I was about to step out of the house, I received a message from one of the members of your board of trustees. And incidentally, he didn't know I was going to give this presentation. And this is what it says. It was a video, and it says, Africa is in big trouble. Oh, you know, when Africans put "oh," it's for emphasis. Chinese man interviewing Igbo businessman in Hausa language at an investment conference in China. Listen to
amma shi Igbo ne ya zo daga Enugu State, amma malam ya ce yana jin Hausa. Ina mamaki yanda wani dan Igbo daga Enugu State yana jin Hausa. To ya suna malam?
Ya suna na Innocent Odo.
Oh, sunanka Innocent daga Enugu State. To kun san ni murtala na iya dan Hausa kaɗan. O tuntuwa ma. Good morning. Gentlemen, ada kuma kedu.
Adamma.
Aha. To ya Malam Innocent kaji Hausa.
To nace na girma arewa.
Aha.
Wana fara.
Thank you very much. So, let us contemplate this. How do we leverage on this interest in the potentials of our continent? And what role can mediation play? Today, I invite you to work with me to explore some of our continent's challenges that has made it difficult for her to achieve significant advancement, even if not her full potential. We'll also address the role mediation can play in turning these challenges to stepping stones that would lead to prosperity, because it is not the challenges themselves that should be permitted to define us. It is our response to them that should shape the future of our continent. I was going to go into a bit of some of the challenges we face, but I then know that time would not permit me to. But some of the things I talked about include the infrastructure deficit we suffer in Nigeria. According to the 2019 Global Competitive Index report, Nigeria was placed 130th out of 141 economies assessed in terms of the quality of infrastructure facilities. We scored 48.3 out of a total of 100 points. And our nation continues to grapple with significant infrastructure deficits of more than 50%. Inadequate transportation, energy, communication network continue to hinder the efficient movement of goods and services that are pivotal to our economic growth and stability. This, of course, in turn negatively impacts supply chains, operational costs, and creates vulnerabilities for businesses. And of course, we have the regulatory complexes, and we have the reduced and inconsistent access to finance, which is a formidable barrier to growth for businesses in emerging markets. Nigerian businesses, for example, face issues of double-digit interest rates informed by the cost of funding, limited access to credit, and a largely informal economy, which make it difficult for them to secure necessary financing for expansion and innovation. Africa's rich cultural tapestry is undoubtedly a source of strength, yet it can also present challenges in the resolution of disputes. So is the legal challenges made up of legal pluralism, overburdened courts, and the difficulty in enforcing judgments. So I then asked, what is the attractive value proposition of mediation vis-a-vis traditional litigation in addressing these challenges? I was also going to go into all the advantages of mediation. Then I got into the room this morning and I was looking at the list of all the people that had been trained. I saw the list of the members of the Board of Trustees, of the Governing Council, and I said to myself, Fumi, you're going to be preaching to the converted if you go that route. So I just said I was going to list them out. And one of them is the time and cost-efficient access to justice when we mediate rather than litigate, avoidance of the enforcement challenges, process flexibility and adaptability, confidentiality, preservation of business relationships for long-term growth. It helps us to address cultural sensitivities and offers contextual solutions rather than purely technical solutions. And it removes challenges posed by legal pluralism and customary practices. It facilitates entrepreneurship and SME development. And these SMEs play a significant role in our economy, and many of them may lack the resources to navigate complex legal battles. Mediation provides them with a more accessible and affordable means of dispute resolution, enabling entrepreneurship and fostering an environment where SMEs can thrive and contribute to economic growth. I will now share a few case studies with you. And I'm going to start by sharing two Asian-based case studies. And why Asia? In recent times, and whilst not attempting to be a soothsayer, that region would continue to play significant role in as our biggest collaborating economic power. Although the jury is still out on this, but I have every conviction in my mind. And what is it that we can borrow from them? What is it that they do that has made dispute resolution different from what we do? And I'll share two scenarios. Many articles, the first case is the Lehman Brothers fiasco. Many articles have been written about the systemic collapse that bucked the global financial space as the fourth largest investment bank on Wall Street in the United States of America. Lehman Brothers Holdings Incorporated failed on Monday, 15th September 2008, about 15 years ago. It filed for bankruptcy in the US. The effect of the collapse of Lehman Brothers was felt worldwide, including Nigeria. The response of each country determined the effects this epoch-making event had on its economy. One of the countries that dealt proactively with this sad occurrence was Hong Kong, where the authorities responded with a mixture of regulations to strengthen its financial institutions, as well as government-sponsored mediation and arbitration schemes. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority appointed the Hong Kong International Arbitration Center as administrator of a Lehman Brothers related products dispute mediation and arbitration scheme, which means this is a scheme dedicated solely towards dealing with that global phenomenon. Under this scheme, disputes were referred to mediation where an investor's complaint in relation to a Lehman's product, especially the over-leveraged mini bonds, were referred by Hong Kong Monetary Authority to the Securities and Futures Commission, and the Commission may then decide to refer this matter to the scheme, or where the parties themselves decided to resolve their dispute under the mediation aspect of the scheme. If mediation failed after 21 days of the appointment of the mediator, then it will go for binding arbitration by a sole arbitrator under a documents-only process, and the decision of the arbitrator is final. The report published a few months after its entitlement carried this heading: 100% success for Lehman Brothers related investment product cases, with many settling in less than 5 hours of commencement of the mediation. And the feedback from users of the scheme revealed that the parties were satisfied with the usefulness of the process. Roughly a year and a half after the scheme was launched, the figures showed that the settlement was put at 85% success. Case study number 2. In Hong Kong, the government decided to build a new airport, the Chek Lap Kok Airport. And the nickname for that airport today is On Time and Under Budget. As the tag suggests, the project was not only completed on time, it was completed with less than the sum budgeted for the construction. Many factors were responsible for its success, the most important being the carefully designed dispute resolution in clause 92. And the elements are this. Step 1, the engineer makes a decision. If either party is dissatisfied, step 2 kicks in. The matter is referred to mediation by serving a notice or a request for mediation within 28 days of the engineer's decision. But the mediation will take place only if the other party accepts the request. 80% of the disputes arising from the project implementation were resolved by mediation. Step 3, which is the adjudication or arbitration process, would only kick in if the parties reject mediation or the mediation failed to resolve the dispute. Case study number 3, and that is a Nigerian story. A young man was born into a family where both parents were lawyers in the then Bendel state of Nigeria. At that time, his father had taken up the case of oil spillage in 4 riverine communities made up of traditional farmers and fishermen who eke out a living from land that had been in their families for generations. And the case was against an IOC in 1982. The case was filed at the entry level of Court of Competent Jurisdiction, that is the High Court of Bendel State, now Delta State. And judgment was delivered 14 years after the case started. The IOC was not satisfied and it approached the Court of Appeal, and the case was dismissed by the Court of Appeal. The IOC approached the Supreme Court, which dismissed the appeal in 2015, 33 years after the cause of action arose. Meanwhile, during the course of the 33 years, that young man had scaled primary school, successfully passed his WAEC, and was admitted as a solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria after his university education. It was this young man who handled the case at the Supreme Court. By that time, 75% of the plaintiffs had died. The value of the judgment sum had depreciated by 88% between the date judgment was delivered by the High Court of Bendel State and the date the appeal was dismissed by the Supreme Court. And who is that young man? Isaiah Bozimo, one of the lawyers admitted into the inner bar yesterday as senior advocate of Nigeria. Let me now ask us to reflect on this and take a moment to think about this case and imagine what the narrative would have been if instead of litigating, the parties had opted for mediation, a platform under which legal and technicalities are kept to a minimum, where the underlying concerns and interests of the parties, especially the claimants, would have been thoroughly interrogated within the socio-economic as well as cultural dynamics of the complaints they had against the IOC. Would that route have led to the wasted resources in terms of time, money, and efforts put into litigation? Taking this into consideration, I will now direct us to some real-life success stories from Nigeria to exemplify the effectiveness of commercial mediation. So I'll talk about case study number 4. The Lagos State Multi-Door Courthouse, and incidentally, we have the acting director in the room today, Mrs. Achere Cole. Can you please stand up for recognition, Achere? One of the earliest cases resolved at the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse involved the former Vice President of Nigeria, late Chief Alex Ekweme, who was a party to a contract involving the sale of land in his capacity as chairman of an investment company. A dispute arose with the corporation and the estate agents, and the matter was subsequently litigated. It was before the courts for 17 years, until the trial judge referred the matter to the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse. At the Multi-Door Courthouse, the matter was recommended for mediation. So parties and their counsel attended a session which started at 8 a.m. By 8 p.m. the same day, the parties had signed terms of settlement, and the matter was successfully resolved. A mere 10 hours and 30 minutes. Case study number 5, the Ajaukuta imbroglio. This is the most celebrated mediation success story which relates to the Ajaokuta steel rolling mills. Between 2004 and 2007, two Indian steel companies, Global Steel Holdings Limited and its subsidiary Global Infrastructure Nigeria Limited, both owned by an Indian company, Pramod Pita, had executed several concession agreements with Nigeria. This included the upgrade and operations of the Ajaokuta Steel Rolling Mill, the Delta Steel Company Limited, and the Nigerian Iron Ore Mining Corporation Limited. Global Steel Holding Mills Limited, brought ICC arbitral proceedings against the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 2008, when the federal government terminated the Ajaokuta agreement. And they also brought another claim in respect of another concession agreement against the Nigerian Iron Ore Mining Company Limited. The two arbitrations were subsequently consolidated. For diverse reasons and circumstances that I don't have the time to go into, including the resignation of some of the arbitrators in 2013, the parties agreed to subject all the various disputes they had with the Federal Republic of Nigeria to mediation, including those that had not been made the subject of arbitral proceedings. After a failed first attempt at mediation, the parties resumed the mediation process, during which Global Steel agreed to reduce its claim of $5.26 billion to $496 million, about 90% less than claimed. Apart from this, the mediation also resulted in Global Steel waiving its claim to another concession agreement to build a railway in order not to disrupt the construction works which had been commenced by a Chinese company. Furthermore, the parties all agreed to release all claims against one another in relation to the disputed concessions and share purchase agreements. The above settlements could only have been achieved through good faith mediation, and it underscores the fact that mediation can resolve different types of commercial disputes, including investor-state disputes. These case studies exemplify that mediation provides a safe, reliable, and business-focused opportunity for parties to discuss extra-contractual issues that impact their investment relationships, such as changes in economic, environmental, and socio-political climate, and create a clearer pathway to negotiate acceptable solutions that deal with all these issues. But with all these articulated qualities of commercial mediation, what then are the unique challenges and misconceptions that hinder the adoption of this invaluable conflict resolution tool? I shall attempt to deal with that under two headings: the potential obstacles and misconceptions about mediation, and I will then make some recommendations about strategies for addressing them and building trust in the mediation process. So what are these obstacles? I have quite a number of them, so I'm just going to list them. Lack of awareness, skepticism of fairness, resistance to change, limited access to mediation services, cultural and language barriers, enforcement of mediated set agreements, power imbalances and inequality amongst the parties, limited integration with the formal legal systems. So, how do we build trust and expand the frontiers for mediation as a transformative tool? I say that there are several ways to skin the challenges identified above, because we must not allow these pitfalls to reign on our parade as a continent. Number one, government support. A robust legal framework is essential to foster the growth of commercial mediation, and the role of government in this regard is undeniable. Such framework would lay a critical foundation that encompasses the recognition and enforcement of agreements to mediate, just as we have for agreement to arbitrate. The enforceability of mediator settlement agreements, the protection of mediators and participants. By creating these legal safeguards, government adds another layer of credibility to mediation as a dispute resolution mechanism. And in this regard, Nigeria has done remarkably well by the enactment of the Arbitration and Mediation Act 2023, a landmark piece of legislation that introduces a comprehensive framework for mediation into Nigeria's legal system. I must not conclude this part of my address without acknowledging the presence in this room of a role model and my mentor, the man who chaired the technical, I may have chaired the global committee, but he chaired the technical committee, subcommittee that worked on that bill that is now our law. Please, may I ask Professor Paul Idonije, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, to stand up for recognition. Thank you very much, sir. Furthermore, government can actively contribute to the spread of awareness about the benefits of commercial mediation. And in this regard, let me pay tribute to Lagos State Government. Lagos State Government has supported the Lagos Multi-Door Courthouse significantly, and it continues to do so today. To incentivize businesses to opt for mediation over litigation, the government can introduce tax benefits. To incentivize businesses to opt for mediation over litigation, the government can introduce tax benefits or other incentives for companies that engage in mediation. And I'll give the example of Lagos State again. If you go to the multi-door courthouse today, what you're going to be paying is significantly lower than what you would pay when you're doing private mediation sessions. And it's because the Lagos State Government significantly subsidizes the fees payable at the Lagos State Multi-Door Courthouse. Number 2, research and data collection. The Council on Quality and Leadership gave 12 reasons why data is important. And it helps improve people's lives, helps you to make informed decisions, stops molehills from turning into mountains, helps you to get the results you want, finds solutions to problems, backs up your arguments, stops the guessing game, enables you to be strategic in your approaches, helps you to know what you're doing well and what needs improvements, helps you to keep track of it all, helps you to make the most of your money, enables you to access the resources available to you. Yet, with all these detailed benefits, despite the challenges we face in Africa, African nations do not gather or keep data as diligently and robustly as developed economies. And why do I make this assertion? I decided to test this. I posed 8 questions online. And the questions are, how many bilateral investment treaties have each of the following countries entered into? And I picked 5 countries: Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Egypt, South Africa, and the Niger Republic. Second question, how many of these countries have mediation as part of the dispute resolution processes in the bilateral investment treaties they have signed with other countries? Number 3, how many multilateral investment treaties has each of these countries signed off into? How many of these countries have mediation as part of the dispute resolution processes in the MITs they have signed with other countries? Number 5, how many investor-state treaty disputes have been brought against each of these countries? 6, how many investor-state disputes have each of these countries brought against investors from other countries? Number 7, how many investor-state disputes have ever been resolved by mediation? Number 8, What are the rankings of these countries in the current Global Competitive Index report? Adequate data was received for all the questions, and the result shows that Egypt has entered into 115 BITs. Apart from Niger, which had no available data, we received adequate responses from Nigeria in regard to question 2, which shows that introducing mediation into dispute resolution processes of BITs enter into by African states is still in its infancy, which means we have a lot of work to do. In regard to questions 3 and 4, apart from AFTA, the online research did not show any data for any of the countries. For question 5, that is how many investor-state treaty disputes have been brought against each of the countries, the result I got for Nigeria is suspect because there are more than 4. For question 6, there is data for only Egypt, which shows that it has brought 7 cases against investors from other countries, and South Africa has brought 3. For question 7, the response in regard to all the countries was no available data cited in the course of the research. In regard to question 8, there was data for only South Africa, which ranked 61 on the current Global Competitive Index report. This clearly demonstrates that indeed in Africa, we underestimate the purpose, the power and usefulness of data collection. The truth is that what you don't measure, you cannot improve on it. My number 3 proposition is there should be a collaborative approach by stakeholders. Whilst government support is crucial, the active involvement of stakeholders from various sectors is equally vital in advancing mediation practices. I refer to businesses coming together and embracing mediation, legal professionals, and I say that to my colleagues, we will be shortchanging our clients by not upscaling our knowledge of dispute resolution landscape beyond litigation and arbitration. During contract negotiations, lawyers must insist on and work with parties to negotiate the dispute resolution clauses as robustly as the commercial clauses, so that clear dispute resolution landscape that prioritizes the interests of the parties are adopted. Unless we incorporate mediation into our dispute resolution clauses, many mediators will be well trained, but few will reap the economic benefits of their training. The impact we make as legal practitioners would enable our clients to focus on their business activities and develop strategies for long-term growth, such as designing strategies for entering into new markets, which would open with the activation of AFTA. And AFTA is an initiative set to create the largest market in the world. It will give our clients the time to rationalize their business structure and come up with new incentives to get a good market share for their businesses under the AFTA regime. Mediators, my co-mediators in the room. There's a saying we have in arbitration which I think applies also to mediation. It says, you take your arbitrator as you find him. I say this also applies to us mediators. There are many who call themselves mediators who are not worthy of the appellation. We must ensure that we get the best training ever, so that when feedback is given about our services, the positives outweigh any perceived shortcomings. Once we get that requisite training, we must then ensure we put our training into practice, bearing in mind that earning the big bucks may not come immediately or frequently, but we must pay our dues. We must be prepared to grow our network, knowing that whatever skills we have pales into insignificance if we are unable to utilize those skills. We must recognize the power in building valuable relationships so that our network may turn proportionately into our net worth. We must attract those who will be our ambassadors when the time to make appointments come, just like the biblical Joseph with a coat of many colors. Civil society organizations, chambers of commerce also have a role to play. Let me now turn to ADR institutions such as ICMC and other professional bodies. As a human process, the mediator skills can be described as the software that complements the hardware of law and its myriad of technicalities. So our mediation skills training must be not top-notch. ADR institutions and other professional bodies should be at the forefront of capacity building efforts, enhancing the skills and qualifications of mediators, which is vital for building trust in the process. They should promote the accreditation of mediators through organizations like the Institutes of ICMC in order to ensure high standard of professionalism and ethics within the mediation community. ADR institutions should also be at the vanguard of public awareness campaigns, articulating the benefits of mediation, sharing success stories, highlighting mediation cost effectiveness and time efficiency, as well as its relationship preserving capabilities. Sharing the success stories and case studies from real-world examples to dispel doubts and demonstrate the practical advantages of mediation over litigation and other forms of adversarial dispute resolution processes. The penchant, however, is for arbitral institutions in Africa to go it alone, thereby achieving minimal successes when they could have scaled their impact and influence significantly. And let me share a recent real-life impact that can be generated through collaboration by arbitral institutions and mediation institutions. And I'm going to extract exactly what I read from this piece. And the headline screamed, CMC, Chartered Institutes of Arbitrators, and CEDA unite to intervene in a court of appeal case critical to mediation. All the three organizations are UK-based. And the story goes, the leading commercial mediation organizations in the UK have united to intervene in a case which may overturn the decision in Halsey and Milton Keynes General National Health System Trust of 2004. Mediation offers parties the prospect of resolving their disputes in a timely manner and cost effectively. In 2004, however, the case of Halsey decided that it was a breach of Article 6 of the European Convention on Human Rights, that is the right to a fair trial, to compel parties to mediate. This decision was considered by many to be wrong, because even if the parties were automatically referred to mediation, they are not compelled to settle. If settlement is not achieved voluntarily, parties retain access to the courts. Although subsequent case law on mediation in the last 2 decades have sought to moderate the Halsey decision, and despite comments from the public, some judges say they regret the impact of this case on mediation, but it still remains the legal precedent. But a new development in this debate came in the opinion of the Civil Justice Council's report on compulsory ADR published on 12 June 2021. With its statutory duty to review the civil justice system in England and make recommendations for the courts, the CJC concluded in favor of mediation, and that compulsion to use mediation is lawful and should be encouraged. So these three organizations have joined forces and have been granted the right to intervene in the case of Church Hill and Methafiddle County Borough Council before the Court of Appeal coming up later in the year 2023. The three organizations will provide written intervention, and the aim is to set aside the Halsley decision on Article 6, which has proven to be a thorn on the side of mediation in England and Wales, stopping parties from being referred to mediation in many cases. And I stand here before you today, looking forward to the day when ICMC, the Lagos Court of Arbitration, Lagos Chamber of Commerce International Arbitration Center, the Chartered Institutes of Arbitrators Nigeria branch, Nigerian Commission on the International Chamber of Commerce would all come together, collaborate, and form a formidable pressure group to work towards advancing ADR practices and policies in Nigeria. This collaboration could foster a more cohesive and influential advocacy group that promotes the benefit of mediation, enhance ADR standards, and actively contribute to the development of a robust and efficient dispute resolution ecosystem in Africa. I look forward to the day when all ADR institutions will join forces and raise something akin to a mediation first campaign and pledge, just has been adopted in some developed economies. I look forward to the day when we would actualize a dream I've shared with many colleagues of a Lagos Arbitration Week, by whatever name agreed, as a collaborative effort of all institutions in Nigeria, scalable to the entire African continent. I look forward to the day when we realize and harness the significant impact that will result from the confluence or coalescence of all the powers that reside in each individual institution. I have no doubt that the compounded effect of the strategies articulated above could be formidable in fostering the transformative impact of mediation on the fortunes of our continent. But all is not gloom and doom, as it appears the trend is changing. And in this regard, let me share some data with you. I love data. Even in my law firm, small as it is, we gather data at the end of every year, assess it, and see how it will help us to promote and improve on our services to our clients. For economic scalability and growth spurt, many African countries depend to a large extent on foreign direct investments. And many of the foreign investors would rather invest in countries that have signed either BITs or MITs with their respective host countries. Nigeria has signed 31 BITs, Ghana 28, Ivory Coast 18, Egypt more than 100, and South Africa more than 50. From the research conducted, until recently, none of the older BITs contain mediation as part of the dispute resolution processes, but there seems to be a new trend. Of the more than 31 BITs signed by Nigeria, the Nigeria-Morocco BIT incorporates mediation as part of its dispute resolution process. And this can be attributed to the fact that Nigeria now has a model BIT which was signed in 2015. For Ghana, only the Ghana-Turkey BIT of 2016 has mediation as part of the dispute resolution process, and perhaps it is because Ghana also now has a model BIT. In August 2018, Ivory Coast modified its dispute resolution protection regime with a new investment code. That code provides that disputes must first be subject to mediation under UNCITRAL mediation rules before investment arbitration under the OHADA Court of Justice and Arbitration. This regime has been reflected in the Ivory Coast Japan BIT of 2020. In 2014, The Egypt-Mauritius BIT provides for the resolution of disputes through consultation, negotiation, mediation, or conciliation. In 2015, South Africa government enacted the Protection of Investment Act, and it came into force in 2018. And this followed the government's unilateral termination of its BITs, principally with members of the EU. This new act importantly excludes recourse to binding investor-state international arbitration, and it has been criticized for lacking legitimacy, consistency, and transparency. In its place, South Africa offers foreign investors the option to refer any investment disputes with the government to a mediation facilitated by the Department of Trade and Industry, in addition to their ordinary right to recourse to domestic courts and statutory bodies. Also, the South Africa-Zimbabwe BIT 2009 provides for the settlement of disputes through consultations and mediation and negotiation. For Africa to feel the impact of the benefits of commercial mediation, this trend must continue, as the incorporation of non-adversarial ADR mechanisms in the dispute resolution clauses is an exhibition of proactiveness in setting the stage for a dispute management regime that prioritizes the interests of the parties. And that is why today I charge the ICMC to reach out to all the other arbitral and ADR institutions in Nigeria. And let us make a position paper to the NIPC, to the Ministry of Commerce in Nigeria, and let us do something akin perhaps to what South Africa has done. We cannot sustain the trend we are in. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, as I close, two things I must do. I'll refer to a close quotation by Albert Einstein. In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. This embodies the essence of commercial mediation. The understanding that challenges and disputes are not roadblocks, but stepping stones towards progress and prosperity. And it is mediation that can be one of the bridges that connects these realities. As you've heard me say today, mediation holds immense potential to transform the economic landscape of our beloved continent, but this transformation cannot occur as a silos. It requires champions of change. Each and every one of us, from government officials and legal practitioners to business leaders, civil society members, must recognize the fact that they have a role to play in the journey that lies ahead. I encourage you all to embrace commercial mediation as a powerful tool, not just for dispute resolution, but for fostering economic growth and development. Whether you are a legal professional seeking more efficient and cost-effective solutions for your clients, or you are a business leader striving for sustainable growth, or a government official working to create an enabling environment, mediation can be your ally. Remember, change begins with the first step. By advocating for the use of mediation, by incorporating its principles into our decision-making processes, and by spreading the word about its benefits, you become the champions of change that Africa's emerging markets need. The aspiration is for a great Africa, but there are many minefields to be traversed. Not only our conversations, but also our narratives must be about dealing with these minefields and not creating opportunities to expand them. We should refuse to continue to red light the challenges of our continent and focus more on green lighting what makes us a great continent. It should be about all of us coming together to ensure that the potentials of our Africa are realized and in our lifetime. Secondly, whatever you might have heard said about me today, let me tell you a bit about myself. particularly about my interaction with artificial intelligence. In a couple of months, I shall be 66 years old. I am a grandmother of 5. Thank you. I'm a grandmother of 5, and I'm still counting. I have not done anything in my professional life that is not tied to law. I pride myself in being old school with all the qualities attendant to being old school. I can say I'm a conservative. And until a few weeks ago, I harbored total aversion to artificial intelligence because of the dangers it portends. Today, I recognize the efforts of one of my juniors, Taiwo Ogundiro, whose enthusiasm infected and converted me. He introduced me and encouraged me to use ChatGPT as my research assistant, and I started. Subsequently, I added MAI as an additional research tool. Today, I stand before you, a firm believer in the potential of artificial intelligence if used ethically and appropriately. Thus, I acknowledge the use of information and text delivered through these 2 tech-based apps in my address. I wish you all a most successful conference, which I hope will be filled with impactful dialogue and inspirational materials. And I thank you all for your time and attention. Thank you.
Please put your hands together properly. Thank you very much. Let's invite the President. I'll also invite the incoming President, the Registrar, the Chair of the CPC to come and do us the honors of saying thank you to her.
Wow, that was exceptional. Does she look like she's anything near 40?
No.
Did you say take away? She looks take away.
Take away.
Okay, I thought Agbelus would say take away. My ears didn't hear well. Well, just before I hand over this plaque to Mrs. Roberts for such a wonderful keynote, I cannot but, looking in the room, there are people that I must quickly pay homage to. So bear with me, Mrs. Roberts. You already highlighted one. My teacher, who taught me in the university, Ogito, in the university and also at law school, and who has remained my mentor in arbitration and a guiding light in a lot that I do, Professor Paul Idonije, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. I thank you for coming. He's a panelist, but I recognize him especially for the role that he played in my life. Of course, I cannot live here without also recognizing the man under whose tutelage I learned how to practice law. Today, I have the privilege of being a Senior Advocate of Nigeria. But the journey started, I don't know if he still remembers, on the 2nd of September, 1999. I had not even been called to the bar. I had just finished the bar exam, and the result, we were waiting for the waiting for the date for court bar, but the result had come out. And at that time, Otumba Deleoye accepted me to work as one of his juniors, and today he's here with us. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me to pay respect to Otumba Deleoye, my Oga, and my principal, and he's still my principal today. I thank you very much. I also quickly recognize past President Emeka Begolu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, my immediate predecessor in office, and of course, Governing Council Member Paul Harris Ogbole, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who just arrived. Mrs. Roberts, on behalf of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators, we thank you for being our keynote speaker. In all the years we have, each year we have tried to bring someone who is able to agitate our thoughts and who is able to set the tone for the conversation. Last year, if you recall, we had Mohammed Ibn Chambers, and the year before we had Professor Atahiru Jega. But this year our focus was on commercial mediation because we wanted to make sure that our members then begin to see how they can use mediation in the commercial sphere. And today, Ma, you nailed it. Or as my little daughter would say, you killed it. So on behalf of the Governing Council and the entire members of the Institute, I hereby present to you this plaque of recognition and our gratitude to you for making out the time to be here today and to give us such a wonderful... Please, another big round of applause for Mrs. Roberts. And then we will all step forward and take a group photograph. Thank you.
If you appreciate the presentation, you can do some more. You can clap a little more for that. There's a point in her speech that she says mediation can only take place if the parties accept. And for us, that's key. They have to agree. The two shop owners in a big market abroad approached the mediator, and the mediator was white. The two shop owners, one of them was a black male and the other a white female. And the female was angry. She said, "You men are in the same club. You are likely to be biased towards the other man." And the man said, "I don't think so. Both of you are white. Is likely to be biased towards you." After some time, the white mediator asked two of them, he said, "Do you want us to pick another person because you think I am biased?" Two of them consulted among themselves and they agreed on something. He said, "Sir, you can go ahead so long as you are equally biased. Just be balanced, be biased on a balanced basis." So permit me to invite, just before we bring up our special guest of honor, one who has supported us, one also who is in the habit of promoting the judiciary and particularly the ADR and mediation system. He is the Executive Governor of Delta State, His Excellency Sheriff Francis Oborewori, who's represented here today by his Chief of Staff, Honorable Johnson Erijo. Please put your hands together for him as he comes up to speak to us today, the mind of the governor, and to share with us what we can continue to do together. And giving us so much, but the Delta State Post is inexhaustive. He may just decide to up the game here. Please put your hands together some more for him.
So good morning, everybody. I'm here to represent my boss, the governor of Delta State, who is a fellow of this great institution. He's unavoidably absent. I have his goodwill message. The chairman of the occasion, the president of the ICMC and the executive committee, other distinguished personalities here present, top government functionaries. I think some of them are here. I can see one from Delta State. Gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to be invited as the special guest to this conference of legal and dispute experts. As a fellow of this institute, I stand with you in deepening the cause of peaceful resolution of conflicts. As the governor of Delta State, we will encourage and always support you in every necessary way, like we have always done. I have visited the mediation house that is now almost completed. I truly congratulate you on the progress so far made and urge you to see that it is completed for use next year. Delta State is an exceptional, peaceful state. We invest strongly in structures that engender peace and human capacity. This is one thing that ICMC has taught me. Personally, I have said before, mediation changed me. My teacher, Ambassador Ojaide, who incidentally too is my teacher because I'm a member of this institute as well as chief of staff, taught me that you don't have to fight or quarrel to make your point known. You can disagree without being disagreeable. The manner or way you express your views to others most time is even more important than what you have expressed. For the focus of this conference, which is centered around the commercial mediation, I urge the Institute to deeply promote it. It will build confidence in investment in our dear country. Once businesses know that they can have quick, faster, assured, and peaceful ways of resolving business disputes, when it occurs, they will be most comfortable to want to invest in our country. Mediation of commercial disputes will promote investment and economic growth. I believe in universal peaceful coexistence. That is why I am part of this institute. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Delta State, I once again congratulate you and wish ICMC the very best of today's deliberation. As a fellow, I'm proud of the Institute, and I wish this noble body the very best in all its future endeavor. Thank you, and may God bless us all.
Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for him. The Chief of Staff, and in modern terms, that's actually the most powerful office in any state. Please put your hands together for him. That is after the state governor.